Awesome. Awesome. Thanks everybody for joining us. I'm going to give it a couple of more minutes so that everybody settles in. Yeah, so we'll get it going in just a couple of minutes. If you can, please drop in the chat where you're calling in from. It's always fun to see the diverse locations. We have a pretty global community, and I really, really enjoy seeing that. So, yeah, awesome. Perfect. Okay. Just look. Awesome. Perfect. Thank you, Michaela, for starting the chat. Let's go, Kim. Love it. So thank you for joining us, and please feel free to drop in your LinkedIn's, connect with each other. I see a great diversity of locations. So thank you for following our work globally. So I think we're ready to kick it off. For those of you that have been keeping up with our work and the Climate Career Series, thank you so much for jumping in and supporting our work. It is for you, and we really are helping out people that are wanting to work in climate, whether it's pivoting or progressing in their career or trying for their new opportunity. This is really for you. And for those of you that don't know us and are jumping in for the first time, we are Voiz Academy, and we help professionals build their careers in climate. We work with professionals from early career to mid-career to senior positions, and we really help you, get a community, to get the skills, and then finally figure out your story and your narrative on how do your skills, whether from a different industry or from your position, map into a new job opportunity. So with that, there are a couple of things that are coming up for us. And the first is on August 30th, we're starting cohort 11 of our Design Your Climate Career program. It is a fan favorite. It's led by Yvonne Espinosa, and she has helped hundreds land climate roles at companies like ERM and Thesis. And she has been wonderful in helping professionals move forward in their careers and really have a new perspective. So I definitely recommend checking DCC out. I will talk more about the program by the end, because we've prepared something special for everybody that is attending today. And one really, really important piece of what we're doing is that we're integrating, as we are through this event, AI into everything that we're doing, because we've seen that all of a sudden this boom is leveling out the playing field, because you're able to take this and go for your next job opportunity and bring it as an incredible competitive edge. And DCC really dives into that aspect as well. So I will drop a couple of links in the chat for you guys to check out. And with that, I will hand it over to Nina. We are so incredibly grateful that you're able to join us today, and I would love for you to just give us a quick intro before we dive into all of the questions.
Super. Thank you so much for the great introduction, Anita. And I love the work that you guys are doing. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity for people to upskill and find a job in the field as it's definitely tricky. And I think especially with AI right now, a lot is going on. And I see that a lot. So yeah, thank you for the work that you do. Yeah, and to say a bit more about myself, so I'm the director of Sustainability at Brightest. I'm also a keynote speaker, so I speak about mainly AI and sustainability. This is what the trend is right now. So I've been speaking a lot about this topic. I've also done a TEDx, and I have my own podcast, which is called the AI Sustainability Podcast, in which I interview experts from all over the world, asking them how sustainable is AI, basically. So looking into different solutions that can help us with climate change and other issues, but also into looking at, what is the environmental impact of AI. So yeah, that's a bit about me, and I'll also be mentioning a few examples about how to use AI, mentioning also the company I work for, Brightest, which is an AI-powered ESG software, and we also use AI in the platform. So I will also be sharing some examples of how AI can be used in sustainability.
Awesome. So let's start right there. How is AI relevant in sustainability for you today? And what are some of the major topics that you're exploring in this space? And I see a couple of requests for Nina's podcast. I will drop it in the chat right now.
Yeah, so right now, of course, as you said, there is quite an AI boom, to say the least. I mean, ChatGPT 5 was just released this week, right? So there is a lot of movement happening. Everybody's racing to make the best, the biggest AI model. Countries are investing billions into this. And at the same time, you also have obviously the climate crisis, the biodiversity crisis, and we need to reach our targets. And the two of them don't really go hand in hand together because a lot of companies are really interested in just growing their market share and not necessarily having a positive impact on the planet. So I would say that's really why right now it's more important than ever to look into, first of all, what is the environmental impact of AI, as there is very little information that's being disclosed by these major big tech companies that are developing these models. But also, how can AI actually help us to limit climate change, to track biodiversity? There are thousands of applications of how this can be done and how it can help us achieve our goals, which have to be achieved sooner than later. So AI can, of course, help us with that.
Uh, And before we jump into the next question, I just want to ask you for like being a sustainability professional, what draw you to AI? I mean, we are pretty much AI aligned at Voice Academy, but I wanted to hear from you. Um, what was so interesting about AI, besides the hype, obviously, but what do you think of its potential and personally, yeah, what's your relationship with AI? Because I think it's a tricky thing, especially for sustainability professionals. And with that, I just want to ask the audience to drop your questions in the Q&A. It's going to be easier for me to sort through them rather than the chat. So yeah, Nina, I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, of course, happy to share. So I would say I don't come from a tech background. I'm really coming from a sustainability background. So I would say the first time I interacted with AI was with ChatGPT, to be honest, when it was released. And at the time I was a sustainability manager. So I started using it for my work. Unfortunately, it was forbidden then pretty quickly because of course they don't want you to share data with ChatGPT. I don't know how they're handling it right now, but at the time I wasn't really able to use it for work. But I was really curious to use it because I was doing so much. I was managing 1,000 different tasks as a sustainability manager, which is the case for a lot of sustainability teams. So I was really excited to use AI and to improve my work efficiency, be able to do more. And I would say that I really started to dive deeper in the topic when I joined Brightest. And because it's a software, right? And we use AI. So that's when I started to learn more and more. And then gradually I started really diving deep into the topic and speaking about it and just doing a lot of research. So it was really a gradual step. But I would say that, yeah, for sure, joining Brightest was a big push.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to hear more on the topic on how sustainable you think AI is right now. And I think that it's always a question that is brought up, but with time, I think it changes. So what is your perspective on that?
Yeah, so that's not an easy question, of course. So there's not like a, one fits all answer. It really depends on, what kind of AI using for what kind of task. Um, I would say right now, if I were to, give a short, concise answer, because we could talk about this for 2 hours to answer this question, it might not be the most sustainable, in fact, because the problem is that right now, as I've mentioned already, all these companies, they're trying to make the biggest possible model, the most performant one. But that also means that it uses a lot of energy, it uses a lot of water to cool down the data centers. And therefore, it is quite unsustainable because they're not really matching the size of the model compared to your request. Because if you just ask, okay, what's the weather tomorrow? You don't really need like a very high language model to do this kind of task. And I think the second problem is also the amount of energy and what type of energy is being used. And so right now, what we see, especially in the US, is a trend away from renewable energy, which is not really helping, and a trend to build more data centers in locations that are very prone to droughts. And again, as I said, because you need water to cool down data centers, if you put a data center in a desert, that's not going to help. So I'm not saying this is the case for everyone. There are some examples of really sustainable company like Green PT that I can talk a bit more about. It's I think episode 2 of my podcast, so episode 3. So you can listen to the co-founder of Green PT talking about it. But I would say that as a whole, right now, there's a lot of work to be done for sure to make it more sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. And could you share a couple of things about Green PT before we go to the next question?
Yeah, of course. Happy to share. So Green PT is a new company that was founded in the Netherlands, coming from the request of consumers to have a more sustainable AI model. And as far as I know, that's the only really sustainable AI model that exists, or like the only AI chat that you can use, which is sustainable. And the reason why it is sustainable is because they use 100% renewable energy. So I would say that's the biggest thing. They also reuse the heat from the data centers, which is one of the biggest topic, right? As I mentioned, with the water, which needs to be used for cooling. So they reuse all the heat to heat up swimming pools, for instance, retirement homes. So they use this heat instead of throwing it away, so to say, or wasting it. And they also have very good water usage effectiveness and power usage effectiveness. I know this becomes a little bit technical, but essentially what this means is that they use water very efficiently, and they also use energy very efficiently, much, much better than the industry average. So overall, definitely a great tool. And I just received an email from them actually today, because I was one of the early users, and they said that they will have it for use starting from, I think, €5 a month. So that, because of course it is more expensive to run a more sustainable AI chat. Also, everything is private, so they don't use the data like other companies for advertising or anything like that. So the data is safely kept in Europe according to EU laws. So yeah, I would say if you want to use AI in your day-to-day life, that's Green PT is for sure a great option.
Really good. Okay, I love that. And it's actually my first time of hearing about Green PT. So there we go. An alternative to ChatGPT, Geminis of the world, and so on. It would be interesting if Green PT would package their recipe and approach different AI providers to help them make their energy usage more sustainable. I feel like they have it figured out. I mean, just how they transition the heat from data centers into heating up homes. And I mean, that sounds really, really holistic. And I love that approach. I mean, just from the intro in the first 15 minutes, I feel like you've dove deep into the convergence of AI and sustainability. You've mentioned that seeing how much more you're able to achieve, how much more efficient you're able to be, and drive more change within sustainability. What are other things that have drawn you to this convergence and are kind of keeping you focused on this intersection?
Yeah, I would say that it's what keeps me going back to this topic is also the hope that it provides, right, and the potential that AI has. And I think that there's so many different ways it can really help us. For instance, there's a huge workforce that we need to work on sustainability, right? A lot of people that need to be trained and training those people. And I know you also have a tool to that is using AI, in fact, to train people at Voice Academy. So that makes complete sense to use AI to train people. Also, I mean, there's 1,000 examples that I could mention, but I think that it definitely has a huge potential to help us fast track our sustainability efforts. And that's for me the what keeps on driving me back to the intersection of AI and sustainability.
Yeah, absolutely. And to build on that sort of thread, what do you think is the biggest untapped area when it comes to sustainability and AI? Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I would say there are definitely many areas where AI can be used for sustainability. I would say I'm not sure if it's particularly untapped. I do hope a lot of people are working on that. But one big topic is for sure the transition to renewable energy. As right now, to meet our goals, we need to triple the renewable energy capacity by 2030. So how do you do that? And so AI here can really have a huge impact as there's a lot of research being done to replace precious materials by using AI. So testing different materials basically to replace the different components of batteries. So that's a big one. Another one is measuring the quantity of energy that you need, renewable energy. So, for instance, for anyone who's joining from Spain or Portugal, or might have heard about the blackout that happened, I think it was a month or two ago. Um, it was due to a bad monitoring of the amount of energy that was needed. And so that's extremely important to accurately measure how much energy is needed. And AI can really help to predict that way better. So, how much sun is coming into the grid, right? For instance, how much wind is going to come into the grid. So, predicting that is very difficult. And AI can do that a lot better. So I would say, yeah, renewable energy is definitely one huge topic where we need a lot of support and where AI can have a tremendous impact. Another topic that I haven't heard too much about, so maybe this one is a bit more untapped, is the topic also of food. And in particular, when we talk about vegan food, vegetarian food, right? I mean, I won't go in depth into how much CO2 emissions this is causing, but essentially, AI can also help us find an alternative to meat. So, for instance, there was this study at Stanford in which researchers used AI to test thousands of different meat options, basically, so plant-based meat options, looking into the elasticity of the meat, the taste, because of course that's always the problem, right? It's like people, I think meat is very tasty, right? But then it's like I also feel guilty when I eat meat. So what they're doing here is really testing it in order to find the best alternatives using AI, and that's going so much faster than the usual methods. So that's, I think, also very promising.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I love the way that you bring up AI into the sustainability equation because it's very much aligned with how we look at it at Voice Academy and through DCC. And it's about not how do you replace your work, but how do you augment your work so that you can take a seat of an editor or like a strategist.
Mhm.
And we've heard from participants in our programs is that with AI, they almost feel like they got their creativity back because all of a sudden some of the mundane tasks can be handed over to AI, and you can take a seat off like the orchestrator and then understand like what are the results that you're driving to, and how can you get to them faster, more efficiently, and just look at the problem from different perspectives. And I don't know. for us, it's a very, very exciting predicament. Um, as I mentioned in the beginning, we talk a lot about, pivoting careers and what does that mean? Pivoting from like a non-sustainability, non-technical career like marketing operations or something like that into a more sustainability focused. But it could also mean, going from like government work to corporations or going from boutique organizations to bigger corporations. And that's a shift and that's a change. We think that AI is becoming such an incredible career opportunity where if you're able to harness it, you're able to understand the tools, understand where you can slot in AI and its intelligence. And you don't really know unless you prototype, you experience, and you do all of those things. Um, it's such a like interesting moment because it levels the playing field. You don't like you're not coming into the interviews where somebody's saying like, but you don't have the experience, like 6 years of experience in, I don't know, policy and working on something like this. It's more like, wow, you can create a solution for us that can help us with a problem that we're having. But from your perspective, when we look at careers, what is most like what would be your advice for people when they're looking to step into the convergence of AI and sustainability?
That's a really good question. And I would say that what I would recommend is for sure to first educate yourself. So, try to like, for instance, anybody joining right now obviously is keen to learn and discover more. So I would say this education part is definitely very important. And using AI as well to learn, I think is a great way to learn more about the topic, reading books on the topic. For instance, there's this new book, Nexus, that came out. I think that everybody should read on the topic of the history of technology and how it drove us to AI. So I would definitely recommend that. Listening to podcasts, educating yourself on the topic, I think is definitely key. As I think that a lot of people right now are scared and that AI is going to take their job. But something that one person I interviewed, someone asked in for this the book, I can write it here. It's called Nexus. It's from Yuval Harari, who also wrote *Sapiens*. So it's his last book that just came out in September last year. So definitely recommend that. And so yeah, I think that yes, exactly. Thank you, Ivan. So yeah, I think that for sure this educational part is extremely important, and yeah, keeping on learning, updating your knowledge, I think is really key here. And just to finish my thought about the fact that yeah, AI could take your job. What someone said in an interview that I was doing in for my podcast is that AI will not replace you, but someone who knows how to use AI will replace you. And so I think that applies for any kind of job, right? And obviously, the more you use AI, of course, the more in theory efficient you are, right? For writing, for editing, for anything really. And I think the standards keep on going up, right? Because people expect you to use AI to do your job. So I think that the more you know how to use it, the better it is, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And we've heard a lot about this paralysis that you were talking about and this fear, where it's almost like there are so many news on like AI taking your job, and for some people it's just like also a moral dilemma. Like it's creating a lot of energy usage, um,
Mhm.
problems and everything. But the big thing from our perspective is, I mean, it's going to evolve, and like energy usage is going to evolve, and those practices, and there are going to be like a lot of pioneers in this space that are going to innovate and make the process better. But there's no going back. Like we can see that there's no going back from my perspective as a professional in marketing and design. My workflow has evolved tremendously, and I have to say for the better, because I'm constantly engaged with my work, because my work has gotten like up by a step, because all of a sudden I have these AI helpers that are working and helping me execute on certain things, and you won't know that until you have the exposure and until you start utilizing these tools in your workflows. And the tools are, I mean, expanding day in and day out. Like I would recommend subscribing to a couple of AI newsletters to just feel the speed at which things are happening, because there's a lot of great innovation as well. Um, okay, I have another question on that topic, and that is, which skills and tools do you think professionals should prioritize when they are thinking about what's going to happen with the workplace revolution? Obviously, being AI fluent is a big thing, but what does it mean? Let's kind of explore that.
That's a really good question. And I wrote a post about this on LinkedIn a few weeks ago, in which I dove deep into how, let's say, how will AI impact the workplace? So looking at a lot of articles and a lot of research that has been done. And what I found out when doing this research and looking into, okay, how will AI impact the workplace, is that there are few skills that robots cannot replicate. And one key one is empathy. And so the point here is that any jobs that requires empathy, so it could be in the medical sector, right? Nurses, doctors, any professionals that requires empathy, HR roles as well, in which you know need to listen to people, understand them. It's really hard to change that. Obviously, like you need to talk to someone, therapists, and then obviously also any leadership position in which you know you need to make decisions. You need common sense. You need to also again have empathy, listen to people. I see NGOs as well. That's a great point. So I would say empathy is a huge one, and I think that's a really good skill to train, I guess. And also, you know, when you look into leadership positions, it's obviously also harder to have, you know, an AI agent tell people what to do, right? Because of the authority component that comes into place. Um, and then also, you know, more manual jobs, something that requires your physical body, so to say. So, you know, anything in terms of building houses, repairing houses, sport as well, athletes. That is also something that is very hard to replace, very simply. So yeah, I would say all of these kind of jobs will be less impacted by AI. But I think for everything else, especially anything that's very automatable. So for instance, design, writing, editing, marketing, um, also software engineering. Right now we talk about vibe coding, right? In which basically you have the AI doing most of the work. So that's definitely another area that's going to be really impacted. So anything that can be automated or done by AI will be impacted. But again, you will need people to manage these tools, right? So it's not like they're going to go away. And also companies don't transition that quickly, especially if you're talking about a large company. It may happen in 5 years, 10 years, right? It's not going to be a drastic change that happens overnight. So I don't think people need to freak out yet. But yeah, I think it's very important, for instance, if you're a copywriter, to learn how to use AI to do copywriting, because it's just going to be too expensive to hire someone to do all the job manually. Journalism as well. I think that is going to drastically change over the next few years. So learning how to use these tools while still adding your human touch is same for graphic design, for instance, photography. There's so many areas that are going to drastically change. So I think learning how to use these tools specifically to your field is really key right now, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about your day to day. Like, what are some of the tools and some of the skills that you're seeing appear? I mean, from our standpoint, what Yvonne helps professionals in the DCC program is help you get exposure with creating dashboards through AI, with vibe coding, with doing all of those things, because um, it's not just about hype right now. It's about showing up for an interview and saying like I was, researching what you guys are doing on an X topic in sustainability, and I think I'm the right person because I completely understand your problem. And in the meantime, I was able to create a dashboard that could help you track something moving from A to B to C because all of a sudden we have this power in our hands. And that is a big shift in your day to day. What have been like some of the major tools and skills that you've been working on um, to help you be more effective, but also more creative?
That's a good question. And I think that for sure, I've used AI for copywriting. So we have a newsletter, and yeah, for sure, using AI helps a lot. To also find new ideas because I mean, if you run a weekly newsletter, so the newsletter is called This Week in Sustainability. And basically, we post every week like a different topic related to sustainability from Brightest. I also do interviews. So yeah, at some point you also run out of ideas and you're like, okay, what can I write about? And the AI always comes up with great ideas that are really creative. And then, I'm like, okay, here are all the topics I wrote about already. Give me another 10 topics I can write about in the next 10 weeks, for instance. So that's an example. Also, when you're doing interviews, and I mean, we also talked about that together, Anita, for instance, to help you write the transcript, to help you find some great quotes from the interviews you're doing. So I would say for sure, yeah, in my day to day, that's something that I use. Also, responding to tricky emails, something where you like, oh, you don't really know how to approach it. And yeah, using AI to help you sort of frame it in a good way. Of course, always rewriting it and giving your personal touch. But I think that also so helps because you can spend a lot of time writing an email, too much time sometimes when it's really tricky situation and you don't really know how to put it in a good way. So yeah, I would say these are some tools. What I also use is Notebook LM. So this is a tool from Google, which enables you to create podcasts out of a document. So because I'm always reading every new research that comes out about AI and sustainability, and I'm following it very closely. And I don't really have time to, spend reading a research paper that's like 50 pages or 100 pages every week. So what I do usually whenever there's like a research paper that comes out on this topic that I'm really passionate about, I put it in Notebook LM and then it creates a podcast episode of like 15 to 20 minutes in which you have two people talking to each other. It sounds really good. It's super impressive. And it sounds like, yeah, like a real podcast, but it's completely done by AI and it's generated in like, yeah, 5 minutes. So I would recommend that if you're learning about anything, if you have to read a book or anything a bit boring, like a policy paper or anything, sometimes I use it also with policies or regulations. Just put it into Notebook and LAM. It will create a great summary, and then you can listen to it, and it will also have like a written summary that you can read.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'm with you on that. A part of our AI learning experience is that, like, whatever topic you input, one of the things that you get served up is like an AI generated podcast. And it's just so interesting to hear and learn in that format because it is very impactful. And it goes away from the standard, like you watch this video lecture and this video lecture and this video lecture, but instead, like, you listen to a podcast, you do a case study, you participate in a debate between AI agents and like your position. So yeah, I'm with you on that topic, definitely. We have a couple of questions in the Q&A chat, so I'm going to take Michaela's question. Um, Hi, thank you for being here. I'd love to know which companies you believe are leading the way in addressing data center sustainability, energy and water usage. In addition, are there any organizations, coalitions, advocacy orgs that are helping develop a framework on data center sustainability or advocating for policy on this topic? Great question, Michaela. Thank you.
Yeah, so happy to answer. So obviously I mentioned Green PT already. So for me, that's the one that's taking the lead. I guess maybe you want to hear some big names of larger companies. I would say the companies that I see right now taking the lead are Hugging Face, which is this company that provides open models for developers, and they've been very active in that field. Their head of AI and Systemity, Dr. Sasha Lucioni, has been, doing a lot of research on this topic, speaking across the world. And they have worked together with Salesforce, which would be the second name of a bigger company I will mention, to create this AI energy board in which that basically compares different AI models and show how much electricity, how much water they're using. So comparing all the models that are disclosed, because a lot of companies are not disclosing their data, so they can't compare them. But for the ones that are open source, they have this leadership board that compares the performance was developed by Hugging Face and Salesforce together. So I would say these companies are taking the lead. Google is also doing a lot. They have created a lot of AI tools for multiple usages to track climate change. They also aim at using 100% renewable energy 24/7. So they're also doing really well, I would say, on that front, on the renewable energy consumption.
Okay, there is a big one, so thank you for bringing them up. I have a couple of questions on your work with Brightest. Can you just give us a day in your life, what you're working on, and just a little bit about Brightest and the solutions that you're creating with AI for sustainability?
Yeah, of course, happy to tell you more. So my day is always very different, I would say. I think that's the case for a lot of sustainability professionals, that you're just working on a thousand different things at the same time. And especially in a startup environment, I think, Anita, you can agree with that. You're always doing so many different things, so one day it's partnership, one day it's webinars, one day I'm talking with the sales team, creating a new strategy. So every day is very different. Um, and in terms of the work that we do, so right now we have just launched actually like a new AI tool. So we have had AI tools in the past, but right now we have developed an AI agent that helps with reporting. So as some of you may know, the topic of sustainability reporting is a big one, a bit of a painful one, I would say. If you've ever done that, it's just so much work and so much effort, and it's really confusing as well, because you just have so many different frameworks, like you have CDP, EcoVadis, GRI, CSRD in Europe. So it's really confusing for a lot of companies. So we have decided to create this tool to use AI to answer those questions for them, using all the data that is already on the platform in terms of carbon accounting, waste, water, social data. And so basically you put all your data onto Brightest to do, your normal sustainability tracking work, and then the AI will read all of this data and write answers for you to help you do reporting, which is something nobody wants to do anyways. So I think it's a good thing, since it's a very manual job. So that's one example out of many of how we use AI to on the software.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and that's an incredible use case because reporting and different standards can get quite complicated. So having like a conversational agent really, really, I think helps elevate the right problems and the right things that people should be considering. So really, really interesting application. Um, I just wanted to hear more on the topic on what AI tools or platforms do you think that more climate professionals should be experimenting with? You know, you mentioned like an LLM, like Green PT, and ChatGPT, Notebook LM. From our standpoint point, we're working with a lot of different tools for deck creation, for video editing, and all of that. And from your perspective, what are some of the tools that you find really interesting in this space? And also bringing in Brightest.
Yeah, so I think there's so many different ways. Obviously, AI can be used for sustainability. It depends really on the kind of work you're trying to do, right? I think, for instance, there are really cool tools for biodiversity tracking to just give an example of how you can track, for instance, deforestation. You can track the number of species, which has been a very unsustainable process until now. So this is an example of how it can be done. Also for sorting waste, right? In factories, you have now these new tools that are essentially able to, take a picture of a type of waste, say, okay, what kind of waste is it, and then disregard it on a certain side of, the bin. You can also have these bins at home, also to do recycling for you, which is a bit of expensive, but definitely, I think in a business context, it makes a lot of sense if you have, maybe you're working for a large company, they have a factory, and this waste could be sorted way better and also more safely, right? Because some waste can be hazardous, it can be dangerous to touch it. So AI and robots can do that a lot better. And then I would say, yeah, in the day-to-day sustainability work, for sure, using a tool that enables you to be more efficient, like reporting with Brightest. I think that's a really big one for sustainability professionals. And that's the feeling I have that most sustainability professionals are working on right now. And then another example of a tool that we have on the Brightest software is also analyzing surveys. And I think that's also a really big one, as when you're a sustainability manager, for instance, in Europe, you have to do a double maturity assessment, meaning that you need to collect data from all your stakeholders and assess what's most relevant to your business. And of course, if you use an AI tool to analyze all the answers, it's going to be a lot easier than going through every single survey and figuring out, okay, what did it say? What's most important? Same thing for collecting your scope 3 emissions, meaning all your indirect emissions. Similarly, you can do that much more efficiently using AI on a tool like Brightest. So I would say, yeah, that's another scope 3 emissions and reporting are probably the two biggest pain point, in my opinion, in the sustainability world.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's like a lot of dealing with a lot of data that is probably scattered, fragmented, and so on and so on. And we just have a question that just popped up in the chat that I think ties perfectly to that. Tendeka is asking, how do you leverage AI for efficient capturing of historic sustainability data on paper from receipts, invoices, waste certifications, and so on? I can offer my perspective there, and that's ties into what Nina mentioned with photo apps that are able to recognize text and, save that information into data like dashboards intelligently. So there's no more, like you look at the text, you transcribe it, and you decide where it goes. All of a sudden, if you're able to set the criteria right, the system will do it for you. So that also becomes a bridge that we're able to cross right now. Nina, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, very, very on point. We also have that tool on Brightest actually to read invoices and then basically match the right emission factors depending on what the invoice is, right? So if it's like a water invoice, then you would have the AI first of all read the invoice and get the number out so that you don't have to do it yourself, and then match the right emission factor to the invoice based on, okay, what is it? It's water from which region? So yeah, we also have that tool, and that's revolutionary in my opinion, because so much time is spent on this, and that's just tedious manual work. And I know a lot of people are doing this using Excel, which sounds really awful. You would be surprised by how many companies still use Excel to do this kind of work. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, having a tool that is able to read invoices for you, and then apply the right emission factors for CO2 emission calculation is a must in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just as you mentioned, considering how small sustainability teams are, I don't believe that you should be wasting time on Excel spreadsheets. Like there now you have the tools to do it in different ways that is more integrated with the workflows that your company has and that you're going for. So definitely recommend stepping out of that scope and trying to apply innovation there. Um, and on that topic, um, what is your perspective and your advice for people that are trying to influence change, whether they're working in sustainability teams or they're working outside of sustainability teams, but they're trying to push for sustainable sustainable efforts? Um, how do you think they could utilize AI to do so? Like, for example, I just mentioned something like if you're in a sustainability team and I mean, using 70% of your time to collect scattered data pieces and essentially acting as an accountant, um, if you're able to implement an AI solution, like that's one use case. But what are other ways that you think that professionals could leverage AI to push for change in that respect?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a fantastic point, and that's something we deal with also at Brightest. It's like usually when we talk to sustainability managers, they're like, "Oh my God, I need this," and then it's like when they talk to the CFO or the CEO, it's a bit of a different conversation because they don't necessarily want to invest any money in this, right? And they just want to keep things as they are and not spend more money. So yeah, I would say what I mean, there's a lot of psychology involved, right? And I think that what is really key to understand what is the priority of the person you're speaking with. And I can say also from experience in my previous role, I was always trying to, do innovation and get budget and do more sustainability initiatives in a company where it was not the key focus. And so I would say that, using AI to try to help you figure out, being like, okay, this person cares about this. They want to increase sales. They want to decrease costs. They want to, have more marketing events. So trying to, sort of do reverse psychology to whoever you're speaking to. And then, creating either an email using AI to try to use these arguments to make your point. So not saying I want, I don't know, budget for this tool, for instance, but saying, oh, like you want to increase sales. Here is how this tool is going to help you do that. Or here's how, using a tool is going to help you decrease costs. And then similarly, also helping you create slides, that can be very convincing, that have really good numbers to show how, being more sustainable is actually going to be good for your business. And I think often case, yeah, profit is the key. I think that's what most people struggle with. And so I think that bringing, showing how something can create value for the business, especially financial value, is, in my opinion, the best way to, yeah, to push for what you want. So I would say AI can help you to create, the narrative around it. As I said, to write emails, to create presentations, to practice as well. To be like, okay, I'm going to present this tomorrow. How can I respond to questions? Yeah, it can be like, okay, sure, we can get this tool. How much is it going to be? What is going to be the value for the business? What is going to be the return on investment? So practicing and getting more comfortable to speak with the people who will give you what you want. So I think that's also what you told us, correct me if I'm wrong, to also do this practicing and this sort of role playing. So I think that AI can do really well.
Yeah, and I mean, you hit it spot on, and it really connects to the empathy piece because, and that's what we really um, practice in Design Your Climate Career program, and it and it's because it's going from design thinking, and design thinking is all about like understanding who you're speaking to. And as you said, like AI all of a sudden gives you these tools that can create different narratives for different people, for different roles in the company, for different, goals that they have set. Because if you're able to provide it context, I mean, it's just an incredible tool. And um, I don't know, it gets me excited in that vein because it just gives you so much space to prototype, to test, to exercise, as you said, like, role play, have AI ask you those questions and go through that pitch and go through some of the questions that might feel less comfortable for you, and exercise the language and the keywords that are important. Because I mean, we've talked to a lot of CSOs throughout the Climate Careers podcast, and what they've said time in and time out was, be friends. Like, you have to have internal partners to push like the goals and the narrative that you want to accomplish. So yeah, couldn't agree more. We're entering into the last 10 and now 8 minutes of our event today, and I can't believe just how fast we've gone through our questions and the topics that we've covered. So I just wanted to bring some attention to cohort 11 that is happening, that is starting on August 30th, and just outline some of the things that we're working with candidates on throughout the program. I'm dropping some links in the chat. You're working with Ivana Espinosa, and she has been working with hundreds of professionals by now, and they've landed roles in Thesis and Google and EcoVadis, and she really, really helps you position yourself and go through that block that you might feel currently, whether you're wanting to go through a different company or whether you're pivoting from a non-sustainability to a sustainability role. So I definitely recommend checking out the program. We've integrated AI experimentation throughout the program because we think that, as I said, things are not going to go back to the way they were, and you can't allow, I mean, we believe that you can't allow yourself to be, competing with somebody that has the AI power, because all of a sudden they're 10xing their work, and if you're going the standard route, it's a really tough game. So definitely recommend checking that out. We've prepared a special discount for everybody that has joined our event today. It's going to be expiring in midnight PST on Friday, so I would definitely recommend checking it out. If you have any questions, reach out to Yvonne. She will be happy to explore how this fits your career goals and your visions. So definitely book some time there. For the last 10 minutes, I'd like to please turn over to you for the things that you're looking forward to with Brightest in the AI and sustainability. What is something that is making you hopeful, excited, and just creative in this space? Would love to hear more on that topic.
Yes, happy to share. So I would say there's so many exciting developments right now, and we see, some companies starting to go in the right direction. For instance, ChatGPT or OpenAI released a new open source model that has a really good environmental performance, that is way lower than previous models. I'm not talking about ChatGPT 5, that's a different story, but this new, they released it last week, I believe. This new open source model, I think is really promising, since, of course, they're the market leader in the field. And I think also that was one of the questions I was asked. There are new coalitions that are happening. For instance, we joined at Brightest the Sustainable AI Coalition that was created this year by the government of France at this World AI conference that happened in February this year. So I definitely see a lot of movement, and I think especially more and more awareness in the topic. I think at the beginning, nobody really thought about the environmental impact of AI, and the fact that I'm being requested all the time to speak at so many events on this topic is great to see, because it means that, you know, people care, people want to learn more, and also, you know, seeing all of you joining today to learn more about this topic is really exciting. So yeah, I would say this is what is making me excited to, you know, have more and more people learn about what is going on, the different developments, but also seeing some companies starting to be more active there. Like I mentioned, Hugging Face, Salesforce, Google. I'm OpenAI is a bit of a different story, but you know, I'm seeing some positive progress happening. So I really hope that moving forward, there will be more transparency, and they will share more data, so that we can, you know, make informed decisions. We can have more privacy also when we use AI, as it's becoming so widespread. And also new regulations like the EU AI Act, which is another regulation that is putting some rules on how can AI be used, what can it do, which is being implemented as we speak. So a lot of positive developments for sure, which are making me very excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just saw that Denmark released like a rule in which every individual that is a citizen of Denmark has an instant copyright applied to their face because there's a lot of AI
Yes,
imagery.
yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
saw
yeah,
that
yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and so and I thought that was really interesting and important in my position. And tell us, what do you have coming up? I mean, your podcasts, you know, you're writing on a lot of things at Brightest. Like, you know, tell us what's happening and what you'd like to draw some attention to, because we really, really value all of the insights that you brought today.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to share, and I would say that, yeah, next coming up, I have a lot of different podcast episodes planned, including one with you. So I'm really excited for that. And yeah, podcast episode coming every month. So with the AI Sustainability podcast. So I just released one yesterday on how to reduce the emissions, CO2 emissions related to AI with the professor. So I would say that's a really good episode to listen to. And then in the next episode, I will be diving more into what is the bad sides of AI. So, which I think is also really important to look at. And I will also be having more events all over the world. So more to come up soon, and developing more agent tools with Brightest. So the reporting one was one of the first ones, but we're looking into way more tools to make the life of sustainability managers more sustainable. I see, yeah, a keynote at Sensibility 2026. That's correct. I will be in Germany at WHU then. So that's yeah, that's another one. So yeah, really excited about all of these events coming up.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we're super excited for you. I'm excited to jump onto your podcast, talk more about the reskilling for AI, our approach to it, and follow your work because I think that the combination of AI and sustainability, people are approaching it very cautiously, and we believe that there's so much potential, and we really want professionals to kind of grab it and understand that this is a really, really unique opportunity right now. And what we're seeing also through the program, that all of a sudden, you know, people that are able to differentiate themselves utilizing AI are landing jobs left and right before the ending of the program in DCC and everything. So definitely recommend diving into the AI space. Yeah. So I just want to thank everybody that has joined us. Nina, I want to thank you for your perspectives and insights. I look forward to another conversation, and to everybody that joined us, thank you so much. And thank you for asking great questions and participating in the chat. It's always nice to have a really active audience. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
See ya. Ciao.
Bye.